Hey everyone, Sleepy Reader here. Time for some comic book thoughts. Mostly I have not caught up with this week's comics, so the only comic that came out this Wednesday that I'm discussing at the moment is Saga number, well, that's hard to see, 54. Apparently the last Saga issue for the next year or so. And they go out with a bang. It was a very good issue. I really enjoyed it. Saga in general has been picking up for me. It has some occasional issues where I feel less involved than others. I don't want to spoil the big thing that happens in this issue, but I had it spoiled for me, and I thought I wasn't going to feel much reading it, but I still felt a lot, and there's a lot of pain for me in a sense for what had happened. Fiona, this is an unusual cover for them. I don't quite get it, actually. Maybe I have to reread it or rethink about why there's a red feather. But anyway, lots of action, a very fast read, but very satisfying, very well done. I don't think I could have asked for better for what was going on in this issue. So it leaves us, we're going to be in a different place when they come back in terms of the various relationships and such. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, they actually in the back say a year or more, I think. What was it? I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not sure how I feel about these. They did the issue with a bunch of black pages, and now they had some white pages at the end. I don't think that was necessary at all. But anyway, I think they say they'll be gone for at least a year. So the fact that it's not like a definite plan of when to come back makes me worry. I mean, this has been such a successful comic. You would think there's a lot of economic reasons and pride of the accomplishment reasons to make them want to come back and do the rest of the story. But you know, the history of comics, and especially the history of indie comics, is a lot of unfinished projects. So it made me a little nervous. But at least if they do come back, they went out with a bang. You can see the ripples on the cover. I do think they went to a cheaper cover stock, and it shows in the ripples in, I don't know, the last time, so many issues. Still, I don't think we'll see ripples here. No. This cover stock's not a whole lot thicker, but it seems to hold the ink better, or maybe the ink intensity isn't as great. Hydra Max began its fourth season. I can't believe this has been going for 4 years. I think it's 4 years, or did the third season begin and end in 2018 also? Now, I'm not quite sure. But each season's been a little different. Season 1 and Season 3 were both set in Kaiju Max. Season 2, which may be my favorite now, involved more of what the life of people who've escaped or been paroled from this kaiju jail, this giant monster jail, what their lives are like. And now we're switching to viewing what life is like in the female side of the prison. And I didn't even realize reading the first 3 series that we were reading only about male characters. I never really gave it much thought, actually. I just assumed they were all the monsters. But so there's kind of some little play with that. Anyway, it was a great issue. I think I've mentioned that Season 3, maybe I'll go back and reread it, all of these someday, and it'll have a better ranking with me. But right now, Season 3 was the weakest of the seasons, but it had some strong issues, and this is a very strong issue starting out Season 4, so I'm hoping that it will continue with all 6 issues of this season, because the first 12 issues, the first 2 seasons of Kaiju Max were so on the spot, perfect, unique, their own thing in such a cool way. And this has all the feeling of that without completely repeating itself, but continuing on with some of the story, because we have the doctor who had the affair with the kaijus, who's now sort of trapped in a giant body and is one of the new prisoners in the female side of Hydra Max B, I guess it's called. I don't know if we were ever told it was Hydra Max A before. But there's tons of cool and inventive stuff here. And it seems that our second central character is this strange creature, and I'm not sure what it's a reference to in terms of the world of movie monsters or story monsters. Maybe something kind of Cthulhu-esque or the like. Anyway, it's interesting to turn these monsters around and make them, at least at times, sympathetic characters. So, and there's this cool giant insect, honeybee or wasp or whatever she is. That was really cool, and some, I don't know, just, I can't describe it, and I don't want to try to describe too much and spoil it. But strong and unique stuff. I have noticed a rise in stories about things that are kind of based on kaiju and Japanese monster movies. In comics, we have Leviathan coming out, and I read about something else that was about kaiju that's coming up. And I don't know if, because although this is not like a big bestseller, it may be kind of a critical darling that maybe lots of fellow creators are reading and being inspired to try to do their own kaiju stories. But we'll see if others are as unique in their approach as Hydra Max is. And actually, along those lines, I couldn't resist Frankenstein Jr., which is some obscure Hanna-Barbera type cartoon. I think I may have seen it once when I was a kid. But it's basically about a boy and his giant robot, which is part of that whole kaiju kind of thing. And one of my favorite kind of story ideas. Mech Cadet U is also one doing the boy and his giant robot right now. But I thoroughly enjoyed Frankenstein Jr. It's written by Jeff Parker. The art is by the person who was previously, I think it's the same person, previously just named Morissette, but now is Alain Morissette, presumably a European artist. And just as when he was in the Wacky Racers, not the Wacky Racers, but the Snidely, what are they called? The dog and the Snidely Whiplash-like character. Anyway, just when he was doing that, as he was doing that with Garth Ennis, he doesn't seem like quite the right artist for this kind of thing. But the fun of this issue kind of overcame the fact that he's not the perfect artist for it. And maybe he's adjusted his art style a little closer to that Hanna-Barbera feeling. But the art itself lacks some of the sort of simple grace, I think, that you really want out of this. Previously on some of these Future Quest things, we've had Doc Shaner and Steve Rude and that kind of thing. This is kind of a pale shadow compared to that, but still it overcomes that, and it's just a really fun story. And I think it's a one and done, but I think there may be an ongoing thread, and I need to go back because I haven't read all my Future Quest comics about one of the evil guys turning good secretly. So anyway, I don't really have a lot to say to this, but it was fun. It was clever. And if you like that boy and his giant robot thing, then this was really good. Weatherman 2. So now it becomes more clear where the plot of this story is going. And I don't want to give anything away, so I'm not going to say a whole lot. But it's definitely in the Philip K. Dick mode. And it's, on Twitter I called it Philip K. Dick Light. And one person maybe felt I meant to be putting it down, but I didn't mean to put it down. It doesn't have quite the dark psychological, almost veering into psychopathology kind of side to it, at least so far, that a Philip K. Dick story, the real thing by Philip K. Dick would have. but it does have all kinds of interesting questions about identity, and it's set in a kind of wacky future scenario. So it really does feel like Philip K. Dick in a lot of good ways, but it has kind of a wacky, fun feeling to it more than a Philip K. Dick novel might have. So anyway, yeah, I don't want to say too much more about that and spoil it for you. You could pick up if you're like that kind of thing, you could still catch up on the issues, I imagine, or when the first 6 issues are out and there's a trade, it probably will make a very good read. I will keep getting it in single issues, so I'll keep you posted if it turns disappointing or anything like that. He's a bit more, this guy's face gets pulverized when he's being beaten and tortured, and that was a little more graphic than I really would have enjoyed, but especially given the sort of light, funky tone of the art in general. Speaking of light, funky tones, I read Archie Meets Batman 66. And in this issue, he doesn't meet Batman 66, but we see that probably Veronica, I think it's Veronica and what's the Dill something, the nerdy science kid from high school is the first one to actually contact Batman. But I assume we'll be seeing a lot more of them together in the next issue. This was fun. It was also written by Jeff Parker, I believe. No, it was not written by Jeff Parker. Sorry. If it had been written by Jeff Parker... Oh, no. It is written by Jeff Parker. Sorry. Jeff Parker and someone like Michael Morecki. It's drawn by one of Archie's most consistent artists and writers, Dan Parent. Maybe it would have been nice if Dan Parent had written it. But it's inked by Jay Bone, and I think he kind of changes Dan Parent's style a little bit. And I like Jay Bone in general, but somehow the mix of Jay Bone and Dan Parent didn't seem like the best to me. I haven't read it yet, but I have another Archie comic that I bought, also drawn by Dan Parent, but inked by yet another inker, and it looks entirely different. But if you like the idea of Archie meets Batman 66, then this completely delivers on the kinds of things you would expect. So, yeah, you can see there, like Veronica normally drawn by Dan Parent, I don't feel like looks quite like that, and suddenly she looks a little different. So it's just a strange inker kind of thing. And there are moments where Batman looks pretty good, but yeah. And I like this. I didn't pick this variant cover. I think it was the only thing available, but it's a pretty cool cover by an artist that I'm sort of keeping an eye on, Sandy Jarrell, who's very good at kind of retro Silver Age-esque kind of art. I'll actually go to my one complaint now. I think I may have mentioned already that I plan to drop the challengers and the new challengers, and I did. It's written by Scott Snyder with someone else who I've never heard of, Gillespie, I think, and it's drawn by Andy Kubert and someone else. So it's hard to know who to blame what on, but I've also just got to wonder why it went so wrong. You've got the Challengers of the Unknown, you've got Scott Snyder involved. I would have expected sort of a minimum level of fun, but it just seems like a jumbled mess, and the pacing is off, and everything in it just doesn't feel right. I'm slightly curious. They brought in the old Challengers now along with the new Challengers, and I'm slightly curious about how all that works together. The Challengers Mountain and everything seems, I don't know, there's just a lot of there's bad pacing, kind of loose thinking in a way, where things aren't structured. It's just hard to believe much of it. Now it ties into Dark Knight's Metal somehow, and I have the trade of Dark Knight's Metal, which I haven't read yet. Maybe I would appreciate all of this better. And even with the Andy Kubert art, what I'm guessing is the Andy Kubert art in different pages, individual panels look good, but when you try to read the whole page, it's not very readable. It's very wordy, and I suppose that maybe hurts it in some ways, especially because the wordy writing is not what it doesn't help the story. It hinders it somewhat. There's a lot of jumping around in time and all of that just all these elements just don't seem to click. So again, this new age of heroes, which is artist first. The artist gets listed first in the credits. Presumably they had a hand, how large of a hand in the plotting and the scripting, the dialoguing came last, a la the old Stan Lee Marvel method. And maybe the modern creators just don't know what to do with this kind of challenge, this kind of challenge of creating comics. Gideon Falls really started to grow with me on this issue, but I think I would be much better off reading it in trade. So I'm starting to really appreciate, I think I starting maybe last issue, but really this issue, appreciate kind of the things that Andre Sorrentino is doing with his artwork to kind of create the different moods and feeling of the story. Maybe he's having, there's more meat on the bone now from the writing, but there's still more that the art is being expected to carry than the writing is giving in a way. But I think it'll all add up well. So I am looking forward to getting it in trade. The colors are also great. Is this, I believe it is Stewart. Yep, Dave Stewart colors. They should put his name bigger because I definitely, like to know when Dave Stewart is on the job. So yeah, this very innovative artwork, and for some kind of subtle effects and stuff. There's not lots of fight scenes. There's a little bit of action in this issue, but a lot of it has to do with the mental states of the characters, trying to create that sense of horror. And speaking of capturing mental states, Royal City, as it rolls on through its last few issues, is really a lot about capturing the mental states. And this issue finally kind of brings us back to the idea that maybe these people are being haunted by a ghost of, is it Tommy? Is that the name of the dead brother? But, done wrong, all of this kind of spacey, dreamy stuff wouldn't work for me. But in the context of what we've had and what we know about everybody, it really works here, and it really is significant and meaningful. And I'm really looking forward to when this series ends in 2 more issues, going back and reading it all together, because I think it will make all together one kind of cool, unique, very personal graphic novel. I've really been won over by this. I think I had a few doubts at the beginning. But yeah, another one that is kind of like Saga, that Saga issue where things are really clicking together and it makes it a fast read. There's not a lot of dialogue, but every bit counts and every bit has its emotional impact. Finally, all of this was in no particular order. Finally, Star Word number 4, which I continue to really enjoy. And although, if you question too much this idea that gravity is gone from Earth, then everything would be gone, including the oceans and the atmosphere and everything. But if you accept there's some kind of limited loss of gravity, then it's really cool. I felt like the characterization here was started to really pay off. I still really love this girl, this character, and her. She's not impossibly brave and impossibly skilled, but she is very brave and very skilled and very spunky. And interesting contrast to her father, although her father is apparently a great scientist and everything. So I don't know. There's just... And then they added a few more details of what the gravityless world is about. There's an incredible thing with a rainstorm that I'm not going to show you because I don't want to spoil that. But I thought that was very clever and leads us into some exciting stuff for the next issue. So it's a really good mix of adventure and science fiction in my mind, and a little bit of psychology and family drama and stuff, but nothing going too deep on that level. So for me, being a shallow person, I guess, a great read. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the Gene Colan artwork that you got a peek at in the brief opening, and there's a longer kind of outro with some more peeks at that artist edition by Gene Colan, which I hope you'll enjoy. And it will make you realize that some of the artists of the 70s were as brilliant and wonderful as many of the artists we admire now. In this case, I'm talking about Gene Colan.
Everything gonna be all right this morning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Done told me I'm gonna be the greatest man alive, but now I'm a man past 21.